I think one of the big upsides of a lot of the convergence that we've seen is that now that we've entered a much more mature space, there is less opportunity for sort of shadowy dark corners and shadowy dark companies to be doing things that we don't know, trust, or have faith in, or that we want to put brands that are worth multi-billion, sort of dollar valuations, sort of, put their fate into the hands of them. And so I think that a lot of that consolidation is a good thing because it's shining a light on those corners. And it's also bringing things like regulation, scrutiny, but also, just the power of a lot of these companies from an engineering perspective to these areas. It's also, I think, started to bring best practices in areas that were traditionally siloed, right? So, you look at TV, digital, and then, marketing or side-side analytics. And it's increasingly building bridges and connectivity between those pieces to make the hopes and dreams of real cross-channel connectivity, real cross-channel optimization, and more effectiveness to what we're ultimately doing from a media and marketing perspective. It's starting to make that much more of a reality. The sort of downside to a lot of this, though, is the inherent competitive nature between a lot of these parties as well. Very few people just do one thing, right? There's sort of the disappearance of a point solution. And so now, Amazon is competing on the same ground as Comcast, right? Which is not something that you would have necessarily thought about, even 1 or 2 years ago, let alone talking about the more traditional competitors like Google and Facebook. So that presents an interesting, unique sort of challenge that we're getting into now, where siloing and walling off of data, of capability, of complexity, which sort of prevents automation and the ability to really lean into technology, is a potential risk that we're going to have to face and that we're going to have to deal with. Now, what is an interesting and good opportunity for us at agencies is that this is an area where we can definitely step in and be those connectors on behalf of our clients, help them navigate those ecosystems, and build better systems and build better ecosystems between these different types of players and between these different gardens to make something that's truly effective.
How has sort of outcomes and performance sort of changed as a priority for your customers, and what is sort of the work that you're doing along those lines?
So I think the linking up of these different domains of data and these different marketing and media channels is what is causing, in a big way, the reemergence of outcomes as a conversation starter. So before, it was actually very difficult to connect media activity, right, whether it was television or even digital, to actual real business outcomes. Right, they just sat in systems that were too disparate, and it was too difficult to understand those things, and that's what led to things like media mix models to try to draw correlations around some of those pieces. As customer data, media data, and the systems that are managing those pieces, and also as e-commerce and brick and mortar, point of sale systems are merging together and allowing for a greater degree of addressability, this idea that we can start to actually connect real media activity with real people and real sales means that the ability to actually start to tie activity back to real outcomes and show not just correlation but causality is starting to become a reality. The one thing I would say there, though, is that we do need to be careful of too much, what I would sort of think of as techno-utopianism, in which there's this idea that all of this stuff just works, right? And that, being able to directly observe, quote unquote, real people, connect that up to real sales data, the idea that that is all working really, really well, that that's happening at sort of 100% resolution as opposed to sometimes as low as 20%. And so we can put all of our eggs in this basket is something that we need to be a little bit careful about. I think a lot of the sort of stories that and experiences that we've had, for example, in the multi-touch attribution space in the past couple of years, and the difficulty that we have in terms of really being able to sequence that and make sure things like Facebook, for example, are properly layered in when we don't have access to all the data that we ultimately need. They're good sort of, watch outs that we need to continuously be tackling with our clients. That said, the perfect shouldn't be the enemy of the good. And if we can get from 0 to 20, 40, 60, that's something that's really, really really valuable, right? We don't have to worry about getting to 100% coverage if we can get to, smarter measurement, better causality, better correlation, and just a better signal within that noise.